And here we are with another game that you probably don't know about, even though you should because it's awesome. And it's copyright 1993, but it was actually released in early 1994. A game that was published by Sony ImageSoft, or in Japan, Sony Records, and developed by Ukiyo-tei, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, a company headed by a former Capcom employee, which only made a handful of games and didn't last beyond the mid-90s, unfortunately. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Skyblazer, a criminally underrated platformer that was released for the SNES, and in Japan, you probably know this as Karurao. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. But, here is the gist of the game, if you couldn't tell it from that incredibly brief opening crawl. Basically, there is a demon named Raglan, who is trying to take over the world with the help of his assistant, Ashura. Now, we are on the way to try and stop Ashura at this point, and I should probably say who the hell this is. This is Sky. Yes, his name is Sky. That's it. And he is the son of the Sky Lord who previously defeated the forces of evil at the expense of his own life. Now then, how this works. A is not used during these sequences. You jump by pressing B. If you've gotten too used to that from Mario, that takes a little adjusting, but it's not that bad. Y is the attack button, which allows you to do punches and kicks. And X is how you fire spells. Now in this sequence, we're seeing that Ashura is kidnapping the young sorceress. Now the reason he's doing this is so that she can be used as a sacrifice that will ultimately allow Raglan to conquer the Earth. And it is impossible to move or do anything in this screen. You try doing anything with the controls, they're not going to respond. This is supposed to happen. That's why the live counter currently says question mark, question mark. Well, that was fun. Now, we're going to be dragged back to a shrine where this old man, yes, he is just called Old Man, is going to revive us so that we can begin our quest to save the sorceress and ultimately defeat Raglan. What we're going to have to do is go around several different levels, collecting magical abilities in order to find the ultimate ability that will allow us to break through Raglan's shield and be able to defeat him. Now, there are several different magical spells that you can get as this game progresses. The one you start off with is called the Dragon Slash, and when you use it, it fires a slash out in front of you, sort of like a sonic boom that doesn't move, and it only takes up one magic point to use. You're going to be using that for pretty much the entire game, as it's pretty useful for hitting enemies at a distance. And the specific building we're in right now is called the Shrine of the Wandering Soul. We're going to see a lot of these throughout the game, and they're quite useful because the old man can restore your hit points, and that thing that just appeared in the background, which is the password system. You can get those at these shrines too, as well as get brief updates on where you are in the story. Now then, it's time to go on to our first actual level. And we go through the overworld map. I will explain more on this later, but right now we need to go through Faltine's Woods. Now the only real trick to this level, other than slightly different enemies, is that you will be able to crawl through these trees. Crawl, jump, whatever. It basically acts like quicksand, only it's actually leaves. There's not a whole lot to this level. There really shouldn't be much to this level, it's just the opening level. The one thing is, there are these little red flower enemies that hide out in the trees. They can be a little hard to see at times, especially if you're colorblind like me and the red blends into the green. The only real danger in this level is losing track of where you are in the trees and falling through the bottom of them, because there are spike traps at the bottom, there are sometimes pits at the bottom. And by the way, these diamonds that I've been collecting, both the small ones and the large ones, which count for 10, are basically like coins in Mario. You can get 1-ups if you get 100 of them. And they're surprisingly easy to get a lot of really fast. If you've ever played Gex, it's sort of like that with how often you can find them. Especially because enemies will typically drop either them, or small health, or magic power-ups. If you see green vials, those are health power-ups. But if you see like orange vials, like that one, the flask that's just off to the left of the screen, that is a magic power-up. Now, I'm just showing you that real quick. It's what he looks like if he stands very close to the edge. And that was an incredibly short level, so let's keep going. Now, there were 17 different levels, but there were only 10 different bosses. And this is one of the levels where we will find the first boss, in the Temple of Infernus. Gee, who would have thought there would be fire in the Temple of Infernus? And by the way, something that helps you get through this level, those fireballs that you see jumping through that fire pit, those can actually be attacked. You can defeat those, grab the power-ups they drop, and these dragons in particular are really easy to defeat. It's just a matter of getting on equal ground with them. What you can do with those is, oh, by the way the combat works is, if you just keep mashing the attack button, you'll do a punch-punch-kick combo. If you jump, you will always do the kick. And that move you saw before was the Dragon Slash. We're going to be using that a lot. Well, in the overall game, not necessarily in this level. Now, these dragons that walk around the level, there is actually a very easy way to beat them. When you get close to them, they will launch a fireball like that, but if you're on equal ground with them, and you duck right before they do it, they'll just shoot the fire right over your head, and you can duck, punch, and kick, or just wait for the fire to go away and then run up and punch them in the face. You can't avoid them, but they're not much of a threat, so not much point in it. And as we move on to this next section, immediately fire a Dragon Slash, because those things will explode right in front of you. It's just much easier to deal with that way, and there are plenty of magic power-ups that you don't have to worry about wasting all your magic in this level. Now as we go through here, these spinning things, you can't punch them, but you can hit them with a Dragon Slash. And as we go through here, we'll jump up here and grab the 1-up, which is not very well hidden. Most of the 1-ups in this game aren't, because you are going to need those 1-ups very, very soon. And we'll duck to avoid this one, and continue moving up here. By the way wall climbing works, if you climb all the way to the top or to the bottom of a ledge, you will automatically climb up or release from it. But if it's against a wall, you'll just keep climbing down or up infinitely. And we'll go through the doorway, which, trust me, it was there. And there's something very important I should note at this point. Notice that we have 6 lives and 46 diamonds. Now 47. Watch what happens when I pick up the large one. Yeah, it doesn't give me 10 diamonds this time. When you have 6 lives or more, it starts limiting how many diamonds you can get from the large ones. And that's just so you can't do what I did in Gex, which was continually grind up lives, even though I was just playing through that game and wasn't really grinding. And you can't get a ridiculous amount of extra life. And we are now at the first boss of the game, the Genie Ifrit. Now, he will do this every time. Pop up, shoot 2 fireballs, go back in the lamp, and try to move around the map. You can only damage him when he's inside the lamp. And what you can do to make this fight even easier than it already is force the lamp all the way to the right, because one of his arms will appear off-screen and won't launch a fireball. You have to get all the way over to the side, though, and watch. Is there only 1 fireball shot that time? And when we defeat bosses, we will tend to get magical power-ups, and in this case, we get a new spell. One that is going to be incredibly useful for the very next stage, the Comet Flash. This allows you to fly across the screen, basically doing a shoulder tackle, and it's actually more useful for transportation than it is for attacking things. Now I'm going back to this shrine so that I can get a password, because I am going to stop the video here. And, by the way, little note about the password system. You might have noticed how it looked like a bunch of different symbols that resembled triangles, X's, and O's. Imagine that. A game published by Sony that had triangles, X's, and O's as the password system. Anyway, next time on Skyblazer we will be having our first flying stage, as well as a visit to the Towers of Terralisk. Later.